Ever since the release of Avengers Infinity War, a lot of people who saw the movie came out of it with a couple different questions, one of which being,
where were Ant-Man and the Wasp?
Yeah, I know ex-con turned superhero Scott Lang is under house arrest, as seen in the trailers for the upcoming movie Ant-Man and the Wasp, but seriously, you think he would have been pretty useful in the fight against Thanos, the Black Order, or at least the Outriders, right? I mean, come on, when he decides he's ready to mess your shit up and become Giant Man, Scott can rip planes apart and grow up to 65 feet tall.
How big did you get?
My record, 21 feet. You?
65 feet.
65.
Just to give you an idea of how big that is, the Brachiosaurus, you know, dinosaur, long neck, ate some leaves in Jurassic Park, has been estimated to have a height of up to 50 feet, meaning Ant-Man is capable of becoming 1.3 times taller than one of the tallest dinosaurs known to exist. Think of how many aliens he could just stomp on and squish at that height. But while the concept of a dinosaur-sized superhero is cool and all, the real fun stuff comes from Ant-Man's shrinking abilities. Just think about all the cool things you could do if you could become as small as an insect. You could bring some new perspectives to a bunch of previously explored locations, or get massive combat and stealth advantages by constantly changing size during a fight, or getting small enough to stroll right past security. You could even unlock a ton of scientific advancements by proving the existence of an alternate dimension, or even just examining microscopic creatures up close and in person. Kill it with fire! Seriously though, a shrunken Ant-Man is a pretty impressive idea. But after seeing this tiny titan get small enough to ride an arrow, run on guns, and have a massive fight inside a briefcase, the thing I want to know is, just how small can Ant-Man really get? Well, as we've seen every time Scott springs into action, the Ant-Man suit only lets people shrink down to a specific height, so long as the regulator on the suit remains operational. More on this later. Seriously, there's no fiddling around with controls, no setting it to W for Wumbo. You just push a button and bam, you're small enough to fight rats, turn a record into a terrifying new teacup ride, and spy on people in the shower. Kinda like Eric O'Grady. Although the less said about him the better. Anyway, Scott's regular shrunken height is actually pretty easy to figure out. See, halfway through his 2015 solo outing, Scott leads a whole bunch of ants, including everybody's favorite casualty, on a raid of what turns out to be Avengers HQ. These ants, as you might remember from the training montage earlier in the movie, are carpenter ants.
Camponotus pennsylvanicus.
Alternatively known as a carpenter ant, ideal for ground and air transport.
Wait a minute, I know this guy.
And as any scientist or somebody working pest control might be able to tell you, adult winged carpenter ants can potentially measure up to 18 millimeters in length, about a third as long as a golf tee. Assuming that Antony here is actually the maximum estimated length, and given the fact that he's about 2.5 times longer than Scott's height, this would mean that Ant-Man's usual shrunken height is 7.2 millimeters. Holy shit.
Holy shit.
That's about half as long as an aspirin. Now that's certainly impressive, but we have seen Scott get much smaller than this after getting around some of those pesky limitations built into his suit. See, towards the end of Ant-Man, Scott decides to bypass his suit's regulator so he can shrink between the molecules of Darren Cross's Yellow Jacket armor in order to shut him down so he could save his daughter Cassie. But in doing so, this dude got small. Like, seriously small. See that thing right there? That's a tardigrade, commonly known as a water bear. They're pretty tiny, as you would expect a microscopic creature to be, usually measuring in at a length of 500 micrometers or 0.5 millimeters. But do you see that tiny speck right there? That's Scott. And just in case that hasn't wowed you yet, keep in mind that this water bear is about 23 times longer than Scott's height. So if this one's 500 micrometers long, and he's 23 times shorter than that, that would put Scott at a height of about 22 micrometers or 0.022 millimeters. That's only 3 times longer than a red blood cell, or a fifth as tall as a human hair. Seriously, Scott was so small, if he wanted to, he could slip into your veins and fuck you up from the inside out.
Oh, you're gonna have to take this into the shop.
Who's speaking?
It's your conscience. We don't talk a lot these days.
Now that's cool and all, but he quickly gets even smaller than that, shrinking down to a point where he went subatomic, or in other words, he became smaller than an atom. Now this probably doesn't need to be said, but atoms are crazy small. Like the diameter of the average one hovers around 100 picometers, or 0.0000001 millimeters. That's a 10 billionth of a meter. For comparison, an E. coli bacterium measures about 2 micrometers or 0.002 millimeters. Scott shrinking down to a subatomic state means that he managed to get 20,000 times smaller than bacteria. That's crazy small. But even crazier than that is the fact that Scott keeps on shrinking, going past the stuff that makes up atoms, like protons and neutrons, and eventually the stuff that makes up both of those, like quarks and gluons, eventually shrinking so small that he wound up in an alternate dimension known as the quantum realm, a place where pretty much everything becomes non-existent for anybody unlucky enough to get stuck there.
What does that mean?
It means that you would enter a reality where all concepts of time and space become irrelevant.
But at the same time, you can still somehow hear people talking at you. So I guess it's not too bad. Now, considering that Scott's so small that basic things like time and space are irrelevant, I imagine that means that he's managed to reach what's known as the Planck Length, otherwise known as the absolute smallest measurement known to mankind. This would mean Scott's height is an astonishing 1.62 times 10 to the negative 35 meters. That's a millionth of a billionth of a billionth of a billionth of a centimeter. Remember how I said at the beginning of this video that Scott's normally about 2.5 times smaller than a carpenter ant when he shrinks down? Reaching the Planck Length means that Scott's now about 1 decillion times smaller than those ants. Holy shit. Holy shit. That is fucking tiny. Seriously, can you imagine having the ability to literally become the smallest thing in existence? And not only that, but being able to travel around and explore a new dimension at that size? Honestly, if Ant-Man and the Wasp really takes the time to play up this angle when everybody goes searching for Janet, I think we're bound to see some pretty crazy stuff.
You're gonna see some serious shit.
But anyways, guys, that's how small we've seen the MCU Ant-Man get up until the time this video is uploaded. If you guys agreed with anything I said in this video, or if you have your own thoughts you want to throw out there, then go ahead and let me know in the comments down below. Otherwise, I will see you all next time. Hey, thanks for watching. If you like this video, then go ahead and click that like button, and if you're new, maybe consider clicking that subscribe button too. I've also got links to my Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, Instagram, and Patreon in the description. You should probably check those out too. And if you want to see more of my content, then you can click the link to my last video. It's right there in the middle of your screen. Alright, and I will see you all next time.